Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome to another episode of Taking Stock Live. I'm your host, Kalila Reynolds, bringing you all the latest business and finance news and helping you take care of your pocket because you know what we're all about in these parts, getting this money, of course. Before we get started, make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and turn on those post notifications so that you can be the first to see all of my other videos on my features, get notified when we're going live, and so on. I totally love the interaction every Tuesday night with you guys. And, because of you, we've started doing this show live, and I absolutely love the live format for sure. Also, make sure that you're subscribed to the newsletter if you're not yet. The newsletter is becoming an ever increasingly important part of KRM, of what we do here, getting information out to you. So subscribe at KalilaReynolds.com/newsletter. Let me know as well, everybody who's watching so far, in the comments, where are you watching from? Which part of Jamaica, which part of the world are you joining us from? I always like to know, to be aware, so that we can, increase the interaction. Remember as well that the masterclass comes out November 29 is the drop date. We are getting closer and closer. I'm trying to organize like a live party, something online that we can do to have that collaboration and build the hype for the masterclass, because a whole lot of work and effort has been going into it, into bringing you the best product. So make sure you tune in for that. Well, tonight we have a very exciting live show, and I'm going to tell you all about it. So here's a look at what's coming up, followed by what's hot in business. Many Jamaicans are furious at the price of NHT's new Ruthven Towers apartments, which start at $27 million, or about $170,000 US for a one-bedroom. Critics say the National Housing Trust should focus on affordable housing, but NHT says there's a demand at this price point. What do you think? We'll have two NHT applicants sharing their experiences, and a senior general manager at the Housing Trust will break down the pricing. And the analysts weigh in on the latest market developments. If you're not fully vaccinated, you can't travel to the US. So those Christmas vacations and shopping sprees for the unvaccinated will have to be done locally, which could boost local business. Jamaica's spending on imports and earnings from exports both fell between January and March this year compared to last year. And electric vehicle startup Rivian is said to be valued at $86 billion after one of the biggest IPOs this year. We'll discuss.
But first, here's what's hot, brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers, your best interest at heart. Drug maker AstraZeneca plans to start selling its COVID-19 vaccines to richer countries for profit. The company has signed a series of for-profit agreements for next year. The company expects to make a modest income from the vaccine, which had slightly negative impacts on the company's earnings throughout the year. AstraZeneca previously said it would only start to make money from the vaccine when COVID-19 was no longer a pandemic. In announcing the shift, its chief executive, Pascal Soriot, said the disease was becoming endemic. They will continue to supply vaccines on a not-for-profit basis to poorer countries. If you're tired of your bosses texting or emailing you outside of work, then you may want to move to Portugal. The country's parliament recently banned the practice as part of new right-to-rest laws. It's part of changes being introduced to improve work-life balance as more people work from home due to the pandemic. Companies with more than 10 staff could face fines if they contact employees outside their contracted hours. Under the new rules, parents are also allowed to work from home indefinitely without seeking prior approval from their employers until their child turns 8. Companies may also have to contribute to staff's increased energy and internet costs. Portugal's government hopes the enhanced labor protections will attract more foreigners to the country. Meanwhile, the Work from Bermuda program has pumped some $23 million Bermudan dollars into the country's economy in its first year. The initiative was launched in August 2020. It allowed people to apply for a one-year residential certificate to work remotely from Bermuda, in an effort to stimulate the economy amid the pandemic. It was aimed at people who could financially sustain themselves, and it was also offered to students. 638 people took up the scheme, and 206 families are still living on the island. Last month, 74 certificate holders were also approved for a one-year extension. The scheme has also boosted the country's real estate market. Over 1,000 applications have been received to date, and more than 900 have been approved. Cygnus Capital has raised $3.1 billion from a private placement of bonds for outsourcing company ITEL BPO. The move is to support the company's expansion and will be used to complete strategic acquisitions, fund capital expenditure, and other working capital purposes. Cygnus Capital has acted as lead arranger of the transaction, with Sagicor Investments joining as co-arranger. The private placement is a precursor to ITL's plans to grow its team members to over 10,000 by 2025, whilst continuing to invest in the region. Stationery Office and Supplies is on track to deliver its second-best year in the company's history. It posted a 190% increase in pre-tax profit for the third quarter ending September 30. Despite the challenges brought on by the pandemic, the company's pre-tax figure jumped from $6.8 million in 2020 to almost $20 million. For the period, revenue grew 8% to $258 million, while gross profit increased by 3%. The company's operating expenses also increased slightly from $109 million to $110 million. With prolonged social distancing measures and the increase in available stock to meet market demand, home furniture sales grew almost 2.5 times from $7.3 million to $18 million. SOS year-to-date sales have climbed almost 14% to $809 million, while profit before tax jumped 175% from $28.6 million to $78 million. What's Hot was brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers, your best interest at heart.
Hey moneymakers, you're not an official part of the family until you have your merch. Visit KaliloReynolds.com/store to order your t-shirt and your mask today. Let's get this money. This segment of Taking Stock is brought to you by Bulwark Insurance Agency, insurance made easy, and Appleton Estate, Jamaican excellence. Welcome back, everybody. Shout out all our viewers all across the world. K Natural One says, let's get this money. You know what's up, K Natural. Sashi Royal One is joining us from New York. Denville Douglas is in Helsha, Jamaica. Eat up some fish for me, Denville. Ruth Ann Paul's in Jamaica. K Natural GB, does that mean you're in Great Britain? I don't know. Levar is in Mandeville. Black Panthers in Jamaica. Shamiza, another one in Mandeville. Chavelle's in Kingston. Leighton in St. Anne. Empress is in St. James. Simone is in Maypen, Clarendon. Michael's in Longville Park, Freetown, Clarendon. Ingrid, good night from Orlando. Hi, Ingrid, always in tune. And yeah, I just love the diversity that you guys are tuning in from all over the country and all over the world. So good night to all of our viewers, everybody joining us live for this really interesting discussion that's coming up. I want to know what you guys think about this issue. So we have our poll question that is live already, and you can weigh in on that in the community section of the YouTube channel. And it's all about NHT. And you can let us know in the comments as well. What do you think about this whole NHT Ruthven Towers issue? Because they've been thrown into this national spotlight after people have been questioning the affordability and the price range of the Ruthven Towers apartments in New Kingston. So the lowest price, the cheapest price is 27 million Jamaican dollars. That's about 173,000 US. For those watching from abroad. And then the prices go up to 37 million for, I guess, the penthouse suites. I'm not sure if that's a 2-bedroom, but our guests can tell us. And that's about 230,000 US dollars for those 2-bedroom. I think it's 2-bedroom on the 7th floor of Ruthven Towers. Well, the NHT has since come out defending its the units and the pricing, stating that its data from contributors indicates that there is a demand for apartments at this price point. So we have a guest on who's going to share his experience with the NHT. We were also supposed to have a guest. So we had 2 guests booked. We had 3 guests booked, actually. One was supposed to share his experience with the NHT being successful in getting that application. Another one was unsuccessful in getting a unit from the NHT. That person had to cancel at the very last minute, like 10 minutes before showtime. So we don't have that perspective. But we also do have with us Senior General Manager for Construction and Development at the NHT, and his name is Donald Moore. So let's welcome Donald Moore to the program, as well as a successful NHT applicant, Daron Wilson. Welcome to Taking Stock.
Hi, good
Hi,
evening.
good night, Mrs. Reynolds.
Donald and Daron. So Donald, let me just ask you to come in the center of your screen, because we're seeing a part of your face chop off right now.
All right.
Much better.
Is that better? Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
a whole lot better. All right, so
All
we're
right.
going to start with you, Donald. Daron will come to you a little bit later to share your experience in how you were able to successfully get a house through the NHT. So first, let's come to the immediate issue of the Ruthven Towers apartment. Donald, tell us what went into the pricing for these apartments.
Well, the usual developmental costs, land, the construction costs of what it is that you're building, all of the finishing, and a lot of it has to do with the kind of finishing that you put in a building. If when we're doing our lower income housing, we would probably put in ceramic tiles in your on your floors, in your bathrooms and so on. Usually the quality is not like the best quality that you can get, because the price would also be increased because of that. So we tailor the whatever it is, the product that we're doing for the market that we're doing it. In some instances, what we have found is people will come in and immediately start to remove all of what you have put in, and that we find destroys a lot of value, and we've seen it. And so what we try to do is to engage the market, to try to get from them what is it that you'll be satisfied with, that you will not then turn around and destroy. And so it's land, it's construction, specification, it's finishing, it's equipment, electrical and mechanical. Apartment building will have elevators. You can't have one elevator, you have to have two elevators. You have a lot of commonalities, common areas, a lot of walkways, the infrastructure that you need. In Ruthven, we have significant underground parking. Unfortunately, it wasn't directly under the building, but you can access the building from the underground parking without coming on ground. The overall cost of the recreational items that we'll put in later, your jogging track, your tennis courts, your pools, all the recreational buildings that we'll have to put in so you can go and play pool and do all of those things, your community activities and so on. So it's a combination. It's the development cost, the cost we have to pay to the NWC, to the JPS for the connection that we have to make to their infrastructure, and so on and so forth.
So given that you went with some of the higher end finishings as opposed to what you put in the low income homes, that would indicate that you deliberately targeted this section of the market. Because what I recall reading somewhere in partial defense of it was that the construction prices went up between the time that this one was conceptualized and started and now when they're ready to hit the market.
Yeah, so one of the problems that we had as we redesigned the building is that we went out and did some market testing. And what we found is that the market was saying that if you were to put the pricing at a particular point and that price came with a certain quality of materials, you're going to have a dump because we are going to turn it into a construction site. And so what you'd find is that people would buy into the building, and over time, usually as we see in our regular housing schemes, that people then, even the people that you would say have no means, would then start construction immediately. So you're selling a 2-bedroom. Well, I want a 2-story, 4-bedroom house. Even though when you look at the initial information on income and so on, you're wondering, where is this coming from? But the fact of the matter is that people want what they want. And if you're not giving it to them at the outset, they are going to then convert what you have given them into what they want. And having done the market surveys, it made very little sense for us to sell this product at an elevated price and then to have it being converted to a construction site again. And so we decided that that was not going to happen. And in fact, we would not allow for persons to come in and do construction in the completed building.
Oh, really? So once you have purchased this unit, you cannot improve it? You can't improve upon it?
Improvement that makes sense, but not. So, for example, we put in porcelain tiles so that you would not come in with a jackhammer to dig out your tiles to put in porcelain and so on. So those are the kinds of decisions that we made.
Okay, so somebody here, all right, so let's look into the mandate of the NHT, because there's been this big debate about whether the NHT should have pursued this project to begin with, because people have been saying that NHT should cater for the more low-income contributors, and that NHT homes should be more affordable. So to set the record straight, what is NHT's mandate?
Well, the mandate is to increase the housing stock, and the mandate is to focus attention on the low income. We are focused on the low income, but it's to increase the housing stock and to provide services and products to our contributors. That's generally the gist of what the mandate is.
And contributors come in all income brackets, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And in fact, the higher income would contribute the majority of the funds that the NHT gets from employees, for sure.
All right. So what is the ratio of homes built for lower income as opposed to homes built in this higher income bracket?
Okay. So interestingly, over the last 20 years, there are only 3 developments that you could say fit within this price point, and that would have been Salisbury, Paddington, and Ruthven. Salisbury and Paddington combined had 14 units, and at the time the property was procured through some arrangements with government, and in fact Ruthven as well. Government has given us land for services that we would have provided to government, financing or otherwise. And so we then took the opportunity of the lands that we received from government to convert it into value. And so that's what you see there. We're converting it into value. And so since I would just estimate about, we have quite a bit of conversion of profit from the higher income developments, including, say, Oaklands. Oaklands was one of the first ones we were involved in, and we then would take the profit from Oaklands and put into lower income housing, a subsidy in some instances.
Right. So how many homes have you built in the lower income bracket, you said?
Well, right. Well, what I could say is currently we have 30 odd projects under construction, and they range in different income brackets. From Silver Sun, for example, would be one of the more expensive ones under the GPP program, and those are coming out at somewhere in the region of 13 million. down to 4.5 million that we are selling the products in estuary in St. James. So there's a range between the 4.5, and this is for a unit, because we also from time to time have service lots, which we would sell anywhere from about 2.5 to $4 million.
But I'm still trying to get what percentage is done for that income bracket as opposed to the Ruthven Towers income bracket.
Well, Ruthven Towers is 84 units. We have a total of 12,070 odd units currently under construction. And Ruthven is the only one that we have for such an income bracket.
Okay, so the vast majority.
So it's less than 1%. Oh yes, it's the percentage is so minimal, you know. Yeah.
You mentioned Paddington Terrace and the one at Salisbury Avenue, and interesting you bring those up because those were mentioned in a recent Gleaner article that was very interesting, and one of our viewers was just commenting on it as well. So those were two projects that you pursued at the higher income bracket. I think it was 36 million to 40 something million at the time. And the Gleaner article noted that you, or the NHT, failed to sell the majority of those for quite some time, that they went unoccupied. So what they asked was the reason for pursuing this income bracket when those two projects were already a failure.
I would not say they were a failure. I mean, we took a long time to sell some of the units, not all of them. Remember that we did the two projects, in order for government to be able to get the protocol housing that they needed. And so while it was 14 units, I think 4 of them went to government for the protocol housing portfolio. The rest of them, I think we had a challenge selling about 4 or 5 of them. Eventually they were sold. And there are some issues that we acknowledged. And in fact, in this Ruthven development, what we spoke about earlier, about the quality of the finishing that you put in, that people were concerned at the time about the quality of the finishing, that they would have to come in and do significant work. And so that was one of the reasons why it took some time to go, but they eventually
And remind me what years those projects went on the market?
There was 2000 and probably 7, I believe, or somewhere around 2000.
So it's a much different time economically. So recession time, 2008, hit
somewhere, it was somewhere that general area, yes. We had a lot of problem in housing at the time.
So it was a much different time in Jamaica and in the world in terms of the housing market. One would say that there is a much higher demand now at higher prices as well. So what is the demand you're seeing for the Ruthven Towers apartments? That's what we want to know now. Are they selling?
We did some market surveys, and so as I was saying, that the changes that we made in the finishing was to, in fact, meet with where the market was, and we are satisfied that the market exists, and that those units will be sold.
Yes, so
the intake is finished. So right. So in another, I'd say day or two, we will give a report on what the intake has shown. But yeah, we've a lot of people were interested and got involved.
So they have gone on sale already, because I've seen documents advertising it.
Oh yes. In fact, I think the intake closed yesterday. I think we had an intake over 3 days or something like that. So the intake closed yesterday. So we would normally do some work to look and throw out things that were not completed properly and so on. And then we'll be able to tell you just how many of those persons are now qualified to be part of the next phase.
Well, I'm very curious to get that report when it is out, of how many people have applied for these homes. There's 84 units available, and it's only open for first-time home buyers, you've noted, right?
Correct.
That Gleaner article also noted that you have to be making, in order to qualify, between 5 and 6 million Jamaican dollars annually. So there's a limited number of people who might fall into that income bracket who aren't already property owners, Donald.
No, I think you'd be surprised at the number. You'll be very surprised.
All right.
There are lots of people living with their family, living their family houses and so on right now who would really wish to push out on their own.
Okay, so I'm going to take a few questions from our viewers, and not to forget our other guests. We're going to come to you as well shortly. But here's a great question from Craig. Craig says, what is the benefit of buying a house from NHT versus the open market for a contributor, since you're pretty much at market rates now?
No, well, the NHT right now. All right, so one of the things that people wouldn't know very much about the NHT is that we are a partnership organization, and so we are really trying to increase the value, the amount of housing in the marketplace, and so we are not necessarily competing with the building societies. We are not competing with developers generally. We are trying to enhance the numbers, and so we enlist the assistance of developers. We have Wicon, for example, working with us under our guaranteed purchase program, where we have the developers do the work, we buy back the units from them, and then we on sale. So we do not look at this thing as a competition, because we're all in the business of trying to house Jamaicans. We have recently launched our developers program, where we're trying to get developers to come in and do the developments on NHT lands, because so that at the end of the day, we have the joint finance mortgage program with the building societies. So we are not in a competition with the developers at all. We are simply trying to increase the numbers of the amount of housing that is available for Jamaicans right across the board. And as I said, with focus on the low income communities and people.
So you commented earlier on the finishings, saying that you've used better quality finishings than some of your other projects. I'm seeing a lot of people in the comments questioning that or debating that. Sasha K. Graham says the finishings don't look that much different from those offered in Silver Sun, which is supposed to be in the lower income bracket. I haven't seen them myself, so I can't judge. But quite a few people are commenting.
I can tell you that they are.
Well,
I can tell you that they are different and so on. So.
Okay. And then Blue Wolf is saying that, well, to your point about people taking out the finishings after the fact and improving upon the home shortly after they get it. He says you buy cheap and then take your time to add on and upgrade. You don't generally have that cash to qualify for loans for the big money houses. So yeah, that's just a point that somebody else is making. Let me come to Daron. Daron Wilson, I haven't forgotten you. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you doing this evening?
I'm great. So
Very well.
you are a young man who has qualified for an NHT home. Tell me about your experience with applying for and getting approved for that home.
All right. My experience has been a very long one, because my experience also entails.
First of all, may I ask, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
Currently now I'm 32.
Okay, yeah, you look youngish, I figure. So you applied for this home when?
I know I got the keys to the property when I was 30.
Okay.
I got the keys to the.
Younger than 30.
Yes. So what really happened is, based on the experiences, my mom has been contributing to NHT since I was in primary school, pretty much, and she's been living overseas for the entirety of her contribution up until present day. She wanted to stop because she became frustrated because she's contributing, but then she's not qualified to get anything based on the price market of the houses that are available at the time. So upon me graduating from college, I told her I'm going to get a job, work for the year, get qualified, and then we merge, because that's the only way that we could possibly own a home for the first time as a family, because no one in the family has owned a home. So it was frustrating for her and also for me, looking at my mother working so hard, contributing, never missed a day. I usually have to skip school just to pay her contributions. And then she still couldn't afford to get a home on her own. So long story short, I worked, qualified for the 1 year, went in, did the paperwork, got my mom to sign over her points to me so we could
So you
combine.
combine.
Yes.
Okay.
And
What
then the
what
home
type of
that
work do you do?
I'm an operations supervisor. So like it's pretty much construction. So I go around to construction site and
Construction.
supervise what's happening. But currently now I'm no longer with the company that I was when I applied. So yeah. Um so yeah, I did the paperwork on her behalf and for myself. We got through, but the houses that they had available, I would say I wouldn't say they were not good houses, but they were not what we were looking for because there wasn't none in and around Kingston, nor were there any in Spanish Town at the time. And I wasn't about to go to the country and then to commute all the way to Kingston to work. So I asked
Okay.
them
So you
if
were living in Houston at the time? You and your
I was
mom?
living in Kingston at the time. So I asked if it's possible if we could get something on the open market if we found it. And they're like, sure. So I went around and did my search, called a couple of friends who were in real estate, and luckily I lucked out and got a house in Spanish Town that's in a gated community. So um, I would say I really lucked out because the house that I purchased, it didn't even surpass $13 million. And it's a 24 hours gated community with most amenities that will be at the Ruthven Towers. But the thing that's surprising is my mom worked so hard and contributed for so long, and she couldn't afford a house on her own. I had to come and chip in to do that, and my mom right now is 54. So
Wow.
she's just now owning a house, and she's been contributing for more than 20 years. So
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's where the trickiness lies because if you don't have someone to combine with,
Mm-hmm.
then
It's much more difficult.
it's much more difficult because even me on my own, because I got the entire 6.5, and even though my mom was contributing for so long, she didn't even get the 6.5, which to me I thought was unfair.
How much she ended up qualifying for?
She ended up qualifying for 4 point, I think 8,
Less than you.
less than me, and
Yeah.
she was contributing way longer than me, way longer than me.
Yeah. Yeah, so
So
many issues with the experience, Darun, but I'm happy that you were ultimately able to
yeah,
get your home and you're living in your home, but it's something that you got on the open market. So not an NHT home, but you got an NHT loan to help
loan
you
to
get
yes,
that
correct,
home.
correct.
All right. So let's bring back somebody's asking if he left, but no, he hasn't. Senior General Manager at NHT, Donald Moore. So Donald, I know this is not your purview there at the NHT, but you understand why people are mad, right? You understand some of the issues surrounding the whole NHT. A lot of people in the comments saying, what sense does it make for me to contribute year after year, month after month to the NHT if I basically can't afford the homes that you all are building? What do you say
Right.
to that criticism?
And it's something that we point out all the time is that remember that the income, your income also, and you know that, Kalila, your income and the time you have to pay back a loan will pretty much set your affordability. The houses that we are building, people, what we have found is that people want to live in certain places. And Mr. Wilson, I think it was, and he indicated that he wanted to live in a particular place, probably gated community, and so on and so forth. And irrespective of who builds it, we're talking about block, steel, um, all of those things. We know what the prices are. And so if you want something that is beyond, say, a studio, because we sell service lots, studio units, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms. We do not right now go above 2-bedroom units because, again, the affordability is usually lower. So our focus on a housing side is on the 1-bedroom, as we find the studio unit to be a little bit inefficient, because with just a little bit larger unit, you can get a 1-bedroom. So that is where we focus attention. But the fact of the matter is that the NHT has quite a number of policies to try to assist people at the low income level to acquire units. And it would be, I think, useful for you to engage with the area of the NHT that does all of this, to tell you the myriad of products that we have, with a view of trying to get persons to be able to afford the houses.
Yeah, lots of issues with this whole debacle. Let me call it that, for want of a better word. But clearly, there's lots of interest in this topic and lots of interest in housing in general. This has always been a hot topic in Jamaica. Thanks so much for joining me this evening, Donald. Thanks for sharing your experience as well, Daron.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
So I see a lot of comments in the chat. I'm going to get to those a little bit later on. But first, we have your market recap, and the analysts are standing by. Oh, before we go, our guest just left us. I almost forgot. So I do have my Appleton giveaway for them. So to Donald and Daron, you both get an Appleton gift package courtesy of Appleton Estate, and this is their 8-year reserve. We'll be sending this to you tomorrow so you can sip and enjoy in your new house.
All right, thank you.
Donald, you can go take it to Ruthven Towers. So let's get into the market recap and then the analysts. Of Taking Stock was brought to you by Bulwark Insurance Agency, insurance made easy, and Appleton Estate, Jamaican excellence.
Time now for your market recap, brought to you by Sagicor Investments. Think wealth, think Sagicor Investments. The Jamaica Stock Exchange declined, with the combined index losing a little over 6,000 points, or nearly 2%. 111 stocks traded across both the main and the junior markets of the JSE for the week ending Friday, November 12, 2021. 51 advanced, 51 declined, and 9 stayed the same. 107 million shares changed hands on the Jamaican dollar market, totaling nearly $713 million. Fesco was the most traded stock. It took up nearly 13% of market volume, with people buying and selling nearly 14 million shares in the company. The stock gained 48 cents to open this new week at $3.23. Wigton Wind Farm ordinary shares traded at the second highest volume, with people buying and selling 13 million shares in the company. The stock price remained unchanged to open the new week at 50 cents. And Pulse Investments rounded out the most traded, taking up 10% of market volume. The stock lost 6 cents to open this week at $4.07. Now let's see who had the biggest gains for the week. Caribbean Assurance Brokers' stock price jumped nearly 39% to close last week at $2.46. Caribbean Producers Jamaica climbed 24% to open this week at $10.05. And rounding out our biggest gains, General Accident Insurance Company Jamaica is up nearly 21% to open this week at $6.60. On the losing side now, CAC 2000 was the biggest loser for the week, down 24%. The stock closed last week at $7.03. After weeks of its stock climbing, Siboney Group fell nearly 16% to open the new week at 74 cents. And rounding off the week's biggest losers, First Rock Capital Holdings lost 10% to close last week at $10.75. Market recap was brought to you by Sagicor Investments. Think wealth, think Sagicor Investments. This segment of Taking Stock, The Analysts, is brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers.
Welcome back to Taking Stock. Did you spot your favorite stock on the market recap just now? How are they doing? Gaining, losing, hoping it's gains for your sake. So lots of comments in the chat, very lively this evening based on the topic, of course. So Ingrid is saying they're using people money to build wealth for themselves and purposely keeping prices high so the people will never be able to afford a home. Marcus says NHT needs to stop letting people below certain income contribute, or what they need to do is provide lands for low income contributors to buy and build on. And then Moments by Booth says Khalila's doing the Lord's work in all things finance in Jamaica. Thank you so much, Moments by Booth. I appreciate your comments. I'm going to take some more of them a little bit later on if we have some time. But right now, we want to get into the analyst segment. We have a few things to talk about. And first, we have equities trader at JMMB, Clive Charlton, business writer at The Observer, David Rose, and financial coach, founder, and CEO of Profit Jumpstarter, Keisha Bailey. Welcome back, everybody.
Good night, Kalila.
Hi. To the panel. So we have our pre-arranged series of topics that we've been planning to talk about, but we do have a bit of breaking money news this evening. David, you shared this with me a couple hours ago. So the BOJ has announced its latest policy rate decision, and they're raising interest rates again. DJ Khaled voice, another one. So it's gone up now to 2%. So it was 0.5% just 2 months
2 months ago.
Then last month they raised it to 1.5%, a move that was highly criticized because people said it was too much at one time. Was it even necessary? Because the whole point is to contain inflation. And then last week we saw Statin come with new inflation. No, this week. Was it yesterday? I think
it was today. It was today that it was yesterday. Yesterday it was at 8.2%.
Right. Yesterday, Statin sent their new inflation numbers, and it's now up to 8.5%. The inflation is still climbing. And so now we see the BOJ's latest policy rate decision raising interest rates again. Now they're at 2%, which means the banks are going to raise their interest rates expectedly. So, David, since you were the one who shared the news with me, let me hear your reaction first.
Well, it's kind of came as a little surprise because I was thinking the BOJ would have, potentially done a further rate hike probably in Q1 rather than, further putting on a further increase in policy rate, because right now some entities such as VMBS have said, they're not going to pass on that rate hike to their members at the moment. And other banks have said, they haven't necessarily priced it in fully as yet to say should be passed on right now. But if the BOJ puts another rate hike on, and with the current way inflation is right now, it's really hard to tell, because the BOJ already said that they have put in their measures to contain Jamaican liquidity, increasing the interest rate to make Jamaican assets more attractive. But at the same time, the inflation we're seeing right now, it's really hard to contain even from their side, because we are seeing the general inflationary pressures from overseas. Remember, I should have tweeted earlier today, Kalila, our supply chain manager, said that it's difficult. Like there's a lead time, the lag time in getting goods here, and you have to account for shipping costs, and but the depreciation of the Jamaican dollar, which is a constant future event, and the US's inflation rate is at 6.2%. So it's really a zero-sum game at this point. The BOJ has to do its mandate to keep inflation low in what measures they can do, but at the same time, it's really going to hurt a lot of companies in some sense, because I know a couple of CFOs probably just cursed out when they saw the BOJ increase interest rates, because if you have a variable rate loan, which is tied to the BOJ's policy rate, then your loan has got more expensive. And if you're looking to get a new loan now, and the banks might price that interest rate increase and pass on to you. So some people are really not going to be happy tonight.
Clive, what's your reaction to this decision? Did it take you by surprise?
Not necessarily. We have our weekly meeting, which is absolutely necessary review what has happened in the last week, month, quarter. We look what might happen, what we expect to happen, going forward. And it was more or less predicted that they would have made an adjustment. I believe that people in the industry who understand finance expected it somewhat. What we're concerned about is how much would it have been. I mean, there was discussion that it would have been another 100%, 100 basis point. That is a full one. No, that was a discussion, no. But that was quickly put down by, I would say, some people who are very much familiar with how BOJ thinks, operates, the variables they look at, etc. So 50 basis points, 0.5% is, I think, is a compromise with the market space. We know that financial institutions especially are concerned because financial assets, the balance sheet, what will happen is a quick erosion of the assets of these balance sheets, and that they may fall into some regulatory issues, we'd want to avoid that. We know on the economic side, that is the good side, cost, prices, it would impact that going forward. It might slow down business enterprise, but I think we're caught between what they say, a rock and a hard place. Is that the term? Yeah, a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, rock and a hard place.
Exactly right. So I think there's a compromise with that rate. I'm not saying it is good nor bad. I'm just saying that there's a compromise given what we're facing. As indicated by David, the US is going through theirs. They have been increasing rates, their policy rate. Fed rates, they have been doing that also. That's one thing. Two, the inflation, their target inflation rate is up to 2%, 0 and 2%. They are not 6 point something percent. We know, and that is, as I said, is cost push rate. That is, the international logistics issue, the shortage of international goods, moving goods to and fro. That is it. Well, let me not take up too much time, but the fact is we're caught between a rock and a hard place, and I think this is the best we can do. I will have to wait to see now how the economy reflects. As David also indicated, many financial institutions, especially banks, have not factored that in their rates that they lend at as yet. They don't need to really, because there's already a significant margin between, a policy rate of 0.5% and the average lending rate of probably 10, 12, 13%, except of course for mortgage, which has been exactly. So they don't have to. I read an article where they said that it would, if the policy rate reaches 4 percentage points, that is where now we should be concerned. And it's far away from there. And I'm sure by then, more than likely, there'll be some, pullback on the inflation rate, of course, given what happens in the international arena, as well as I think companies would have adjusted somewhat their position to be in a more comfortable space to continue business operations.
One correction, though, Clive. The Fed has actually tapered their bond buying program. They haven't actually increased the Federal Reserve rate. It's still at 0.25% right now.
Well, yes. Well, I mean, over the last year and a half or so, throughout the pandemic, post-pandemic, really, that's what they had expected, and the inflation rate is really running now. So there is concern, at least.
So there's a question in the chat. Somebody says,
and it's global, really.
How does the BOJ believe the rate hike will impact the inflation rates positively? So let me just try explain this real quick and as simply as I can. So the BOJ's policy interest rate is what they lend to banks at. And so they believe, so it passes through to the banks add on based on, where the interest rate is. It's an indicator of what banks are likely to do with their interest rates that they lend loans to you. So the BOJ believes that by raising interest rates, people are less likely to borrow because now credit becomes more expensive. It becomes more expensive for you to get a loan. And they believe that if people are less likely to borrow, or if fewer people are borrowing, that's going to reduce demand because people won't have as much money because they can't access credit, right? So by reducing demand, they believe that that's going to have an impact on inflation, bringing inflation down because, the laws of supply and demand. Less demand means that more supplies, well, not necessarily available, but less demand should bring inflation down. And that's their reasoning, that's their rationale for raising the policy interest rate. So Keisha, I need to hear your take on all of it.
So the thing for me, I don't think inflation is transitory because what's driving inflation is not demand from consumers. It's external factors that we're having.
That's the thing. That's the main issue that people have been raising. Yeah.
Right. So because it's external factors, you have very little control in terms of the consumers. So hiking rates to cut back on consumer demand I don't believe would be effective. I do understand, however, that with inflation at 8%, it's 2 percentage points above the BOJ's target. And so they have to do something, they have to react. Is this the best tool at this point? It may be, but I think what really we need to turn to is what's really pushing the inflation. It's shipping costs, it's oil prices, these are external factors. And that's what we need to try and address. The problem is, how exactly do we do that? The entire world globally is struggling with these same factors. And that's why globally you have inflation trending higher. That's where we need to turn our eyes. That's what we need to plan for. That's what we need to try and make some money off of as well. But until then, the central bank has to do what they can do.
Well, let's see. Let's see if it has any impact on inflation at all in the coming months. Christmas is right around the corner. So let's head into some of the topics that we did plan to talk about, and we're running low on time now. But first up is Stationery, Office and Supplies. They released their earnings for the last quarter. Clive, just give me the highlights quickly. What's SOS looking like?
Okay, yes. Well, SOS is in the business of furniture, retailing, and merchandising. They were hit by the pandemic because of the stay-at-home program. They had developed another business line through acquisition. School supplies, that again was impacted, which is just textbooks for now, but I'm sure they're going to develop that. But the fact of the matter is that they were hit badly, where revenue went down from like 2019, I think it's about 1.2 billion to just about 900 million by end of 2020, 972 million by the end of 2020. Now, over the quarter, it has improved just since 2021. And 2021 September, the 9 months result showed a sizable increase, and we can be happy about that. We have seen, first of all, let me look at some of the valuation. Well, let me look into what has happened. The pre-pandemic price in 2019 was about $11.20. The stock, as at yesterday, traded at $6, roughly $6.02, I believe, but roughly $6. That's an appreciable decline, probably about 40, nearly 50% decline from that pre-pandemic price. At the height of the pandemic, the stock traded as high as $9, which I think is probably about August of this year. Yeah, you see? So it's now, again, appreciably below. Well, the September results has improved. I think the market expected the stock to do poorly. This is why they pulled the price down further. Well, now that the price has improved, the results are out. Just, I think it was last Wednesday, the results came out. So the market is still yet to absorb it, Then the price really has not reacted as yet. What I hope for, though, or what I expect is that they have their AGM coming, I think is in November, annual general meeting, that they'll have enough. Two things have happened. They have declared a dividend to be paid December 7. The ex-date is November 22, so you must buy it at least the 21st of November to be entitled. That's one thing. And I think it's a really nice dividend payout of 16 cents per stock unit, maybe compensating for not declaring earlier. They have their annual general meeting coming. So we hope that they'll discuss some strategies going forward. Particularly, they spoke about the home office line of business. They're going to develop that further since more people are now working from home, as well as they have exported to the market, and that paid off well, exported to 2 Caribbean countries. So I don't know if they can develop that into a new strategy that can drive business if the domestic market is still constrained. We're looking at that. So look out for the AGM, and I hope that those are elaborated on further as to what is their strategy going forward, especially since they have changed leadership. Leadership change, the quality of leadership, I'm not saying has improved. No, the leadership quality, I think, has always been there, because they've really contained themselves and contained costs during the pandemic, and has done fairly well. I mean, it's a pandemic that did fairly well. And now, on the tail end of the pandemic, September quarter, they showed appreciable return, and you spoke to that and you gave some figures, right? So I'm looking for this new AGM to be had. Now, of course, on the back of those results, some of the valuation metric, we have seen some improvement. Earnings per share over the last quarter running is about 33 cents. Just this quarter, 31 cents earnings per share. Just this last quarter, right? That is a 9 months ending. So the running for weeks, 4 quarters, earnings per share is 33 cents. So I say how much the company has improved, The PE is slightly just below the average of the junior market, and just about where the entire market is. Not too bad, trading significantly above its book value. But I'm looking for the year end now. And I expect that revenue may touch near to its previous 2019 pre-pandemic level come this December year end.
That would be pretty good if it does.
Yeah, yes. I think I would put a hold recommendation on the stock. I would put as a hold. It previously was an underperform, that is sell. I would put it as a hold, maybe cautious buy.
Okay, so for those who are new to these terminology, what does hold mean, Clive?
I see. Okay, hold means that usually our recommendation is no more than 5% of your investable fund in any particular security, or index. That is at 5%. So hold means you can maintain that 5% holding. That is, you don't have to sell down to reduce your percentage holding, or you don't have to increase that percentage over 5%. 5% is sufficient of your total investable holding. That is having a fairly diversified basket.
All right.
So that is what hold means. Yes.
All right. So let's move on to our next topic. David, you have been noticing this thing. All right. So vaccinated and unvaccinated travelers cannot get into the United States. You may have heard the story about Letitia Wright from Black Panther. They had to pause filming because she got home to the United Kingdom and now she can't come back to film the thing because she's unvaccinated. I don't know if it's because she doesn't want to be, I guess so. But what that means for the many, many, many Jamaicans who haven't and don't want to get vaccinated is that if you're planning a Christmas trip to the United States to visit family or friends or to do some shopping, that ain't gonna happen. You gotta do it locally. So what do you make of that for local businesses? Is it an opportunity, David?
So this is an opportunity for local businesses because the reality is, so when Christmas came around, pre-pandemic, some of us went to go and see family members and, we went to have a little lime drink and, a lot of us went for the deals, the Christmas sales and so on. But with the new policy the US has implemented, a lot of Jamaicans are kind of stuck here. And that's a good thing for local businesses because the thing is, if you can't spend that money to go and travel to see your family members, you might spend at a local hotel, you might spend at a local villa, a local attraction. And, some of the goods that you probably go up, get carried back under your duty-free $500 US mark, you instead have to buy it locally. So because of the situation right now, you're basically going to end up seeing these companies like a Mail Pack or other courier businesses basically seeing some increased business because if you can't fly up, what are you going to do? And the thing is, there are very limited exemptions for, who can actually get through. So like kids right now, your kids can go up what's under 18 years, diplomatic passports and so on. And Jamaica does not qualify under the limited vaccine availability. This is currently the list right now. The only Caribbean countries you can see right here actually qualifies is Haiti. And we know how Haiti's situation is right now. So when I did the math, and if you type into Google, you see it says Jamaica's vaccination rate for fully vaccinated is 15.2%, but that's actually incorrect. So what you have to remember is that currently only Pfizer is allowed for kids 12 years and older right now. And then you have AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson and Moderna for 18 years and older. So the thing is, for those who are actually eligible to get vaccinated, only 19.14%, and this was up to last week, Jamaicans have been fully vaccinated. So although you're seeing 15% on different sources or so on, you have to remember Johnson & Johnson is 1 shot. Good. AstraZeneca, Moderna, Pfizer, 2 shots. So when you see set 2 doses and single shot vaccine and you calculate the numbers, you get 19.14%. And as I said, the kids themselves, very small population, they can go up. And then you have the persons who are, in the upper class or middle class who are vaccinated and can travel right now. So before it was just visa and passport to travel, it's now visa, passport, and vaccination card.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, you're really going to see a lot of domestic businesses really benefit from this situation because the reality is imports right now are down about 19% compared to 2019 levels. And exports are actually up by about 15% right now. So Jamaica's little quote unquote, I don't want to get vaccinated situation right now, indirectly is benefiting local businesses because the Prime Minister actually moved up curfew hours today to 9 p.m. So there's more business time for persons to do business. And on the flip side, as I mentioned a while ago, if you want to get goods now, as a courier or buy it locally.
Right. So, I have a trip coming up this week. I'm supposed to be traveling Thursday, and I'm just praying that there's no issues. I have my vaccination card in a Ziploc bag. I'm just praying. Have my COVID test scheduled. I'm just like, please, no
No, but
issues,
it's
no
the point,
issues.
though, it's the point, though, Kalila, in terms of how vaccination is really impacting travel or even business now,
Yep.
because companies are trying to do their mandates not so successfully. And the flip
Mm-hmm.
side, you have the US saying, hey, no vaccine, no coming.
Right. Yeah.
Oh boy. All right. So last topic
Mm-hmm.
for the evening, and this is speaking of the US, we had the Rivian IPO last week. If you joined us early, you saw that in What's Hot in Business. Rivian is an electric vehicle maker. Keisha, how did that IPO go in the States?
Yeah, so think of Rivian as competition for Tesla. It was a very big IPO, the one of the largest for this year. I'm gonna share my screen to just show you guys some information on the IPO. So the IPO was valued around 86 billion, meaning that now Rivian, this startup company, no orders as yet, no sales, completely new startup. Their value hired, yes, completely new. They have orders, but they have not delivered the vehicles as yet. And they're valued at $86 billion.
Higher than Ford, and they haven't
Yes.
built anything yet?
No, right. So
Like,
Ford's
this
market
sound
cap
like just
is
hype. This sound like
77.
hype.
Very much so. Holy for hype. Holy.
It's
They are,
172. No.
yes. So Ford's market cap is 77 billion. GM's market cap is 86 billion. So these are long-standing companies, Ford, GM, and you have this new startup, Rivian, that has a similar market cap already. The price has run up extremely fast since the IPO. So if we look here, when the prospectus was issued, the IPO was valued around $50. On the day of the IPO, indications were around $78 per share for trading. And when trading started at 1 o'clock on November 10th, the price ran
Keisha,
up
what
to
happened to
the
your audio? You drop out. I'm not hearing you.
Oh, hear me better
You're
now?
going very, very low.
Hello.
Oh,
I don't know what happened to your audio. Maybe you can plug out your Bluetooth. I don't know.
no, it was still there. Let me.
Okay, I'm hearing you now.
I can hear you.
All right. So on the first day of trading, it started trading 1 o'clock. By about 2:30, 3 o'clock, it was over $100, and we're up about 30% in that day, just that day alone. After that, now we're trading up into that $140, $150, and it closed today at $172.
Wow.
After hours, actually. After hours.
Yes, after hours trading. So this is within November 10 to today, November 16. We've moved from $78 to $172.
No, man, this sound like Jamaican IPOs now.
Very high.
A whole bunch of hype around Jamaican IPOs.
Lots going on. Lots holy
So
things.
what is driving all this this hype around Rivian?
So the orders, there's a backlog of orders, and Amazon owns 20% of this company. So that's where a lot of the hype is coming from, the backing from Amazon, and the fact that Amazon has ordered 100,000 vehicles, 100,000, and they're expecting 10,000 of those vehicles next year. The thing is with companies like this, and we saw it with Tesla, where the proof is in the production. Will the production numbers be met? Tesla struggled for the first 5 years to actually get production levels on stream. We'll see what happens with Rivian, but there's a lot of backing, there's a lot of media around this company, and that's what's pushing the stock price. So money to be made, yes, but the proof is in the production, and we need to watch for that to see if the company can.
Interestingly, I think there's an ad on TV on the cable. As I said that Amazon owns 20%. I remember the ad on TV where it's an Amazon ad, and it says that they intend to have their delivery fleet, electric.
Yes.
So that could be, one of the thought in the investor's mind.
Yeah.
And you have to remember the lockup period as well. So Amazon can't sell, or anybody else in the inside
exactly
can't sell. So
can't sell.
You have lower demand. Exactly.
Right.
And
right,
one of the main things also, persons who've ordered the vehicles, they also get shares. So
really?
When you have, yes. At the pre-IPO price. So you got it at $78. So that's creating demand for the vehicles.
That's a good marketing strategy.
I know, right? No, but tell me, with that quick run up, is there still, and this is purely your opinion here, let me just note, give our standard disclaimer. The information in this segment is not intended as investment advice. Consult your
Yes.
licensed financial advisor. But do you think that given this large and quick increase in the stock price, that there's still upside if somebody was to consider getting in now?
I would say not at this point. We don't chase stock prices generally. And when you see this
Exactly.
big move over
Exactly.
100% in such a short period, we
Yeah.
don't chase anything. We wait. There will ultimately be a pullback once all of the hype
Mhm.
is gone. And that's where, if you believe the proof is in the production, that's when you go in and you make your purchase at that point, but not right now.
Right.
Exactly.
And also
Yes.
we should point out that options haven't really started to kick in as yet
Exactly.
for Rivian. Okay, so for context, options are basically, the right to either buy or sell 100 units of a stock per contract. So options haven't kicked in as yet for Rivian. So when options are kicking now and then you see the production numbers come in, that's when you're going to probably start seeing the price really either going up or going down.
Mhm.
But
Right.
because when you have because right now, if you can actually sell a put option on Rivian, I say for example $200, and the price
You're gonna make
starts
a
to go
lot of money.
down, then some people are going to make some money short in Rivian, and the thing is that every electric car making company is going to be a Tesla. Tesla was 850 about what 3 weeks ago. It's like
No, it's
$1,000
already.
now.
Yeah.
Went to Tesla 1,200.
Hype, all the hype. Remember, so the company also noted that their third quarter results, they're going to be posting a loss of 1.2 billion. So even with them saying we expect to lose money, people still
Just
buying the stock.
1.2
In
billion
Musk we trust.
in
In
3 months.
Musk we trust.
In Musk we trust. Tesla. Tesla for your money, as David.
Exactly.
Tesla is minting money. It's literally minting
Oh
money for
boy.
shareholders.
Right.
And viewers, remember, if you're interested in investing in stocks on the local stock market, you can always check Clive there at JMMB. Well, not necessarily Clive specifically, but check JMMB in order to invest in SOS, like he mentioned, or any other thing that you might be interested in on the local market. If you're interested in purchasing stocks on the United States market, overseas markets, consult my broker guide to find out which brokers you can contact to make those investments. And you get my broker guide for free when you subscribe to my newsletter at KalilaReynolds.com/newsletter. Thank you, Clive. Thank you, David. Thank you, Keisha. Thanks for joining me.
Bye.
And thank you for
Glad to
having
be
us.
here.
Yeah, man, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Good program.
That's the analysts. To you guys.
This segment of Taking Stock, The Analysts, was brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers.
All right, well, that's our show for this week. Thanks for watching. We have a whole lot of stuff coming up this week. You may have seen Money Mondays JA last night. Tomorrow night is Money Moves JA. We have a next feature episode of Pulse coming up very soon as well. And like I said, I'm going to be traveling. So my next couple of episodes are going to be done overseas. So we're going to see how that works out. I better get good internet and good streaming quality. But it should be interesting to see what comes out of it. I have quite a bit to do, and I wish me safe travels now. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for tuning in yet another week. We appreciate your presence. Rick says, good show. What happened to Lucid? Who's Lucid? I don't know. Marcus says, dead will laugh. Ziploc bag is a storm coming. Listen, you have to keep that vaccination card safe. That's like gold now. If you go through the trouble to get your whole 2 shots, if you took Pfizer, you had to wait an extra how long to get it. You better keep that thing safe. So no water can wet up my vaccination card. I mean, keep it safe. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in yet another week. I'll see you again next week. Until then, I'm Kalila Reynolds. Let's say it, everybody. Let's get this money.